Matthew Stafford is probably, I don't think I can name three quarterbacks that play the position better than Matthew Stafford.
Ask almost any quarterback in the league who they admired growing up, and a surprising number will say the same name, Matthew Stafford.
But Stafford, I want to see Stafford get MVP. You know, some people had certain opinions after we played the Rams, and I was like, bro, you're my favorite player. I don't give a fuck. I'll stand on that.
But that dude's throwing crazy no-lookers all the time.
Lions as they keep progressing downfield, throw to the end zone. Touchdown Detroit. Calvin Johnson on the payoff.
The Gunslinging Soul Snatcher. The guy dropping no-look passes before Mahomes made them cool. One of the purest throwers in 2 decades. And yet, Matthew Stafford has never won an NFL MVP. Not once. Not in Detroit, not in LA, not even during the Super Bowl run. 17 long seasons, and no recognition from the league. But before all of this, we have to go back in time to 2009, the dark times of Stafford's career.
8 seconds remaining. Stafford takes the... Stafford is going to have to come out of the game.
He's got it. It's a shoulder problem.
Dante.
Talk to me, buddy.
Yeah. Shoulder.
Get your breath.
Oh, shoulder.
Dante Culpepper in the game at quarterback. Matthew Stafford off the field injured. The extra point.
Third and final charge timeout. Cleveland.
And the Browns call a timeout.
What does it take to destroy a quarterback before he ever throws his first NFL pass? Try handing him the keys to a franchise that just went 0-16. The 2009 Detroit Lions weren't just bad, they were historically broken. A carousel of failed coaches, a roster held together by duct tape and desperation. This was the situation Matthew Stafford inherited as the #1 overall pick. He didn't get the Andy Reid stability that Mahomes walked into. He didn't get to sit behind a veteran and learn. No win-now roster, no functional front office, just a burning building and a water hose. The Lions admitted they didn't even enter the draft planning to take a quarterback, but Stafford's tape, going back to high school, separated him as something special. Still, nobody was calling him a guarantee. How could they? The bust of talented quarterbacks destroyed by terrible organizations was already overcrowded. Now picture this. You're drowning in dysfunction, surrounded by mediocrity, and then suddenly...
In the 2007 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions take wide receiver Calvin Johnson, Georgia Tech.
You get thrown the greatest lifesaver in NFL history. A 6'5" receiver who adjusts to bad throws like they're designed that way. His name is Calvin Johnson, or better known as Megatron. He wasn't just Stafford's #1 target. He was his entire offensive infrastructure. For years, Stafford to Megatron became the only reason anyone bothered watching Detroit football. In 2011, Stafford launched over 5,000 yards and 41 touchdowns, dragging the Lions to their first playoff appearance in 12 years. They lost to the Saints, but they were dangerous again. By 2014, they posted an 11-5 record, one of the franchise's best seasons ever, only to fall in the wild card round to the Cowboys. Detroit didn't become a powerhouse, but they became something they hadn't been in decades. Relevant. And for a franchise starving for hope, relevant felt revolutionary. But let's zoom in on that 2011 season for a second, because it's the perfect microcosm of Stafford's entire career. Only 4 quarterbacks in NFL history had ever thrown for 5,000 yards at that point. Stafford became one of them at 23 years old, doing it on a team that had just gone 2-14 the previous season. He engineered 8 game-winning drives, played through injuries, and functioned as the entire offensive engine on a franchise still learning how to walk.
The first thing that jumps out for me from him is just his toughness. And he's tough as hell. It's like, I remember watching the mic'd up with him, he broke his shoulder or something weird like that. He finished the drive and, his shoulders ended flying into place. And, I just respect that, because it's not easy.
Those are MVP type numbers. In today's NFL, people would be screaming his name for the award. But in 2011, he wasn't even an MVP finalist. Not top 3, not top 4, not in the conversation at all. Why? Because Aaron Rodgers had a historic season that year. Drew Brees shattered records. Tom Brady was being Tom Brady. There was no oxygen left for Stafford's masterpiece. His greatness got swallowed by timing and louder narratives. That's the core problem. Every time Stafford had an MVP caliber season, someone else had a season for the ages. Then came 2016, and everything changed. Calvin Johnson retired at 30 years old, right in his prime. As Megatron walked away, Stafford wasn't just losing his #1 receiver. He was losing the one pillar of stability in a franchise where everything else constantly shifted. No more safety valve, no more game breaker, no more Stafford to Megatron highlight reels, keeping Detroit relevant. And yet, somehow, Stafford still kept producing. He led the Lions to more winning seasons, more fourth-quarter comebacks, and another playoff appearance. He reinvented the offense, spread the ball around, and made average receivers look like playmakers. But the narrative stayed locked in place. Great arm, fun to watch, but you can't win big games with this guy. But here's where it gets frustrating. Nobody ever stopped to ask the real question. Was the problem actually Stafford, or was the problem everything around him? Think about it. He had one elite weapon for a few years, then nothing. The defense ranked bottom tier almost every season.
If you give Matthew Stafford a chance like Aaron Rodgers, I guarantee he might have had more rings, for sure. I think Matthew Stafford.
Matthew Stafford had more rings than Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he have another ring probably.
I'd say he had like 3, 4.
Stafford was asked to carry an entire franchise on his back while playing with one hand tied behind him. But the national media loved their simple storylines. And talented quarterback stuck in organizational hell doesn't fit on a hot take segment. The story was written, and facts weren't going to rewrite it, at least not in Detroit. By 2021, everyone knew the truth. The Lions and Stafford had hit a dead end. When Detroit agreed to trade Matthew Stafford to the Rams, it wasn't just a blockbuster deal. It was a confession. The franchise was finally admitting they hadn't given him what he needed. 12 years of trying, and they couldn't build a winner around one of the best quarterbacks of his generation. So Stafford got shipped to LA in exchange for Jared Goff, 2 first-round picks, and a third-rounder. Analysts questioned if the Rams were giving up too much for a 33-year-old quarterback who'd never won a playoff game. But Sean McVay saw something different. He saw a gunslinger with elite arm talent who'd been stuck in quarterback purgatory. McVay pushed all his chips to the center of the table. And Stafford, he finally got what he'd been missing for over a decade. A complete team with stars instead of placeholders. The fit was immediate. Stafford walked into an offense designed by one of the brightest minds in football, surrounded by Cooper Kupp, and a defense anchored by Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. No more carrying the load alone. No more trying to mask organizational dysfunction with arm talent. This was a win-now roster, and Stafford was the final piece. In his very first season with the Rams, year 1, he didn't just win games. He didn't just win playoff games. He won the Super Bowl. On the biggest stage in the biggest game of his life. Matthew Stafford outplayed Joe Burrow and brought a championship to Los Angeles. It was the crowning achievement everyone said he'd never reach. Stafford to Coop in crunch time, icing the game, silencing every critic who ever said he couldn't win when it mattered. And when he hoisted that Lombardi trophy, something shifted. People started giving him his flowers. He's a Super Bowl champion now. He's a future Hall of Famer. The respect finally came.
When he would play for Detroit, I enjoyed watching them. I mean, he's unbelievable. Like, there's a couple plays where he'll get a play action and, you know, he has the backer on a string. Like, he wants the backer to go here, he'll go there, you know, throw it right behind his head at the perfect touch, you know, perfect velocity.
And here's the amazing part. In just 4 years with the Rams, Stafford became their all-time playoff passing leader with 2,292 yards, surpassing Kurt Warner's 2,221, something he played 12 years in Detroit and never got close to accomplishing. That tells you everything about the difference between organizational dysfunction and a functional winning culture. But even with the ring, even with the stats, Stafford still never entered MVP territory, partly because Stafford's greatness has always been disguised as routine. He makes unbelievable throws look simple. Elite quarterback play looks effortless when he does it. And because it looks effortless, people assume it is. That's the paradox of Matthew Stafford. His brilliance is so smooth, so fundamentally sound, that it doesn't scream for attention. He's just out there playing elite football in a way that feels almost invisible. And invisible doesn't win MVP votes. So even after winning the Super Bowl, the MVP conversation still didn't include him. And that's been the story of Matthew Stafford's entire career. Every time he puts together an MVP caliber season, someone else has a season for the ages. It's almost comical how consistent the pattern is. In 2011, it was Rodgers' historic year. During the Super Bowl run in 2021, Cooper Kupp won Offensive Player of the Year, and Aaron Donald anchored the defense, so the credit got divided. Even in seasons where Stafford posted top 5 numbers, there was always Mahomes doing something unprecedented, a Lamar Jackson rewriting the dual threat playbook, or a Josh Allen launching bombs into the stratosphere. Stafford's greatness kept getting overshadowed by timing, circumstances, and louder narratives. The stats say Hall of Fame. The resume says champion. But the awards case? Empty. That's the Matthew Stafford experience. Always excellent, rarely celebrated, and not even surprised.
Stafford a dog.
He is a dog.
No, you don't understand, bro. You saying that. That's all I watch. I don't watch nobody else. I watch Mahomes at times because Mahomes does some stuff that like you can't coach. Stafford, dog, he will beat you with the same thing every time. All that no-lick stuff, I got that from bruh. Like literally, that's one of my big, like I'm a fan of him.
Now we land in 2025, year 17, age 37. This is supposed to be the decline phase. Most quarterbacks at 37 have either retired, become backups, or lost significant arm strength. But Matthew Stafford isn't declining. He's thriving. He's playing some of the best, smartest football of his entire career. He's dragging a young Rams offense forward, outplaying quarterbacks a decade younger than him, making throws that only prime Stafford could make, but doing it with more poise, better decisions, and sharper efficiency. His deep ball is still elite. His pocket presence is calmer. His ability to read defenses and manipulate coverage with just his eyes has never been sharper. This is a quarterback who figured out how to age like fine wine. And for the first time in his career, the MVP narrative actually fits him perfectly. For the first time in Stafford's career, there's actual space in the MVP conversation. A veteran defying age. A team exceeding expectations. A top-tier statistical season without a generational performance blocking the view. Everything that's worked against Stafford for 16 years is finally working in his favor. The narrative fits. The stats support it. The respect is there. And most importantly, nobody else is running away with the award except for a year 2 quarterback named Drake May, who doesn't have nearly the same street credit that Stafford has. This is Matthew Stafford's window. The question is whether voters will finally recognize what's been in front of them all along. Ask around the league who players studied growing up, and Stafford's name comes up constantly. The gunslinger. The guy who makes impossible throws look routine. Young quarterbacks watch his film, not for the highlights, but for the fundamentals. How he manipulates safeties with his eyes. How he throws receivers open. How he delivers under pressure without flinching. He's the film study favorite, the leader teammates swear by, the veteran who never stopped being great. He just stopped being appreciated by everyone outside the locker room. But his peers know. They've always known. So if Matthew Stafford wins MVP this season, remember something important. He didn't suddenly get better. He's just now getting the recognition he's always deserved. This is the same quarterback who threw for 5,000 yards at 23. The same guy who carried Detroit on his back for over a decade. The same arm talent who won a Super Bowl the first year that he got a complete team around him. The difference now is timing, circumstance, and a clear runway. But this year, at 37, when conventional wisdom says he should be slowing down, he's playing like he's 27 again, except smarter, calmer, and more efficient. This isn't a comeback story. It's a recognition story.
Matt Stafford just jumps to the top of my mind. And I'll tell you why. When you see someone do these no-look passes like he did last week, he knows where the defense is going to be aligned. That is an elite level of play.
Matthew Stafford has always been this good. We're just finally paying attention. 17 years, 12 in Detroit, carrying a broken franchise. 1 Super Bowl ring in LA. Historic numbers that got buried by bad timing. And now, at 37 years old, Matthew Stafford is playing the best football of his life, while the MVP lane sits wide open for the first time in his career. Whether he wins the award or not, his legacy is already cemented. One of the purest throwers of the last 2 decades, a quarterback's quarterback, a Hall of Famer who did it the hard way. But if he does win MVP this season, it won't be a surprise. It'll be overdue, and maybe, just maybe, it'll be the moment the rest of the world catches up to what his peers have known all along. Matthew Stafford has always been elite. He's always played at an MVP level.